Y'all that are joining us now have missed the secret story that we didn't record. Um,
Well, that's just another connection that, Betty was, she studied under Hecky. A lot of people don't realize, but Betty was at Cranbrook for 2 years before she left. She was in her MFA program. And y'all, she was in class. Her co-classmates were Fred Finster, Kurt Metzendorf. I mean, they're like pillars of the metals community. And she just married Raymond. He was a scientist with DuPont, and they were in the Cranbrook area working. He was working there on one of their plants. Excuse me. And she got pregnant with John. And back in 1967 or whatever, when you got pregnant, you couldn't go back. You couldn't stay in college if you were a woman.
Yep.
So she never finished her MFA in metalsmithing.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Yeah. Wrap your head around that. You couldn't be pregnant in a university.
Well, I remember when I was in college, and I'm probably older than anybody here, we could not wear pants on campus. We had to wear skirts. We had to wear dresses.
Oh my.
But it really crushed Betty because she wanted to finish that MFA, and that always bothered her. And I told her she spent time with Hecky, and then of course she spent years developing that technique, her technique, and bringing shell forming to the masses. And I wanted to talk. I hope it's okay, Brianne. I wanted to start out and talk about Betty because that's what this was for.
yes. Let me do a brief introduction.
Okay.
I have a whole thing that I have to follow, apparently. But welcome, everyone. And we're here with Andrea Harvin-Kennington, who has donated this gorgeous piece. It is Betty Helen Longhi's saw frame, and we are raffling it off. So I will put the link to the raffle in the chat. It comes in the shadow box. It's signed on the back. And I can take the piece
It's
out.
very wearable, as you can see. I have on the...
Yeah, I love that you're wearing that.
And I have a little bench pen I made too.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. Hours and hours, 500 hours. How many hours?
Almost about 480 something, I think, in the end. This technique is not for anyone that needs to make work quickly, which is what I did production jewelry for 20 years. So, where you have a quota you have to meet every week. And this is not it. This is not that world. But anyway, back to that. And I appreciate everyone that came this evening. I know it's everybody's busy and it's summertime. But Betty studied with Hecky. That was a big connection. And what drove, if you all, I don't know if I know some of you all here know about the book that she wrote with Cynthia Ide, which is creative shell forming, which is pretty much the Bible of shell forming. And it's a funny story about why this book happened. Originally, she had started writing this book with Yvonne Irit, which I don't know if any of you older of us remember her, but Yvonne was a flatware master, and she was a fellow with the American Craft Society. If you went to Baltimore or ACC shows, she was always there with beautifully hand-forged flatware. She also knew Hecky. And Betty had started this book back in the early 90s when I first started working for her, and Yvonne got cancer and passed away, and the book got shelved. Hecky was still alive, and he really wanted her to write it because this is his book. If anyone has ever seen his book about shell forming, and y'all look, mine has been around. I've had it since 78, and it's tied together with shoelaces. But the problem with Hecky's book is he wrote this as a textbook for the university he taught for in St. Louis. There was no textbook. So this is very incomplete. It has like stages of some exercises. You were to take this to class, he would demo the piece, right? And you would fill in notes on the book. But he never expected this book to go out in the wild. And by, I would say, 95, 97, there were a lot of people frustrated in the metals community for 20 years trying to follow this book. And heck, he didn't want to deal with another book. So he gave Betty his blessing. And somewhere around mid 2000s, she met Cynthia Ide and they connected. And by 2009, I think they were working on the book. So that's how the book happened. If you don't know anything about Betty, but she was very versed in shell forming. And that's how the book came about. And I was, a lot of people are really grateful because she and Cynthia did such a great job. And, Cynthia is still here. She's in Boston. She's close to Metalworks. Matter of fact, she's doing a lecture right now at Metalworks about her work. So she couldn't be here tonight. But anyway, and I brought a few pieces of Betty's to show everybody. I don't know if you can see this, but this is this is so typical of Betty. Just a basic, simply formed, roll milled piece of metal with a fibula. This would be like for a scarf, or a sweater, and it's bronze. And this is cheesecloth. I mean, it's just so basic and simple, but it's so elegant. She had a sense of simplicity. And Nancy Gardner's here tonight. She knew Betty. Bet took class with Betty. I don't know who else. Elise knew Betty. And I tell a lot of people that she really had an economy of hammer forming her hammer blows. Don't y'all agree, those of you who are here? She was so good at just doing these naturalistic forms. I have a couple of I don't have a lot of her pieces. I have a lot of her images, but here's a classic production earring. And that's how I got started with Betty. I knew her when I would go to ACC shows before I did my MFA. I started my MFA at ECU in 92 under John Satterfield. Excuse me. Linda Doherty had who wrote the book on enameling, was just wrapping up her graduate degree as I was rolling in that year. So she was there in my program. But before I had gone to ECU in the late 80s, I was going to a lot of ACC shows. And Betty was always at ACC shows showing her work. And I just fell in love with the forms and how simply done, but elegant. So much dimension with just a few specific blows to the hammer. It just mystified me. So she came to ECU in 92, my first year there, to do a workshop for John. And we for the grads, only the grad students, I think it was 5 of us. And she asked me at the end of the workshop if I had any plans when I graduated. And I said, my husband and I are heading to the mountains. I don't know where we're going to end up. Our goal was Asheville. But, he was in IT. And I said, we're going to try to end up in the mountains. She said, I'm in Winston-Salem, and I would love to have you as an apprentice. And I just I was like, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. But I really wasn't thinking about this area at all. My mind was in way western North Carolina. Well, as my friends love to say that live in Asheville, that have a spouse that needs a real job, it's all icing and no cake. There are no real jobs outside of service and tourism or art in Asheville. There's no industries. There's no IT. Chuck spent the whole time I was in grad school trying to find a IT job there, and he couldn't do it. So we ended up here in Mount Airy. I'm still in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The mountains, run this way diagonal across western North Carolina, and Asheville's kind of in the middle. I'm at the Virginia line. I'm 4 miles from the Blue Ridge Parkway in Virginia. So I'm really more Southwest Virginia, Northwest North Carolina. But it was a great area to settle. And I'm 50 minutes from Winston. It was like the universe just said, no, bitch, you're going to Winston-Salem. You're not going to Asheville. So I called Betty up when he got the job, and I said, I'm so disappointed that I couldn't get to Asheville, but do you still want me as an assistant? And she said, oh my God, my assistant just got pregnant. Can you start tomorrow? And I said, well, I haven't moved yet, but I'll, as soon as we get things here in a few more days, I'll get in touch with you. And I think that was like a Monday, and Friday I was in her studio hammering. And that was in 1995. I also started teaching at Sawtooth that same week. I went down to Sawtooth School of Art, and I just walked in, and Sarah Stein runs the metals program. She did her degree under Chuck Evans in Iowa. And if y'all are way back machine, you remember that Chuck Evans wrote the book about goldsmithing, the original book. Before Alan Revere, there was a Chuck Evans book. But anyway, he was a famous metalsmith. I walked in to Sawtooth and said, I'm going to go to work for Betty, who's down the street, and I would love to teach here some. I just finished my MFA. And Sarah Stein said, you have an MFA? You can do whatever you want. Like, her eyes were like saucers. Because back then, Sawtooth didn't have very many degreed teachers. They were just craftsmen that had mastered their skill. Today, the metals program has 16 regular instructors that teach weekly or weekend workshops, and they're all degreed, like a minimum BFA. It's not required. It's just what's happened with them. But anyway, so then I started working for Betty, and I worked for her and made her jewelry until 2018. Now, of course, I did my own shows and my own jewelry. So I wasn't with her every weekend. I did a lot of remote work. I brought her work home and worked it into my production time. When I started the hammer company, I had to take about a 7-year break, and it was a mess. She had a real hard time finding people that she could train. And when I finally had a break from the hammer company, when things got really rolling and I could step off the road, I went back to work for her in 2012. And just a part-time at that point, and then a lot more. And as she got older, she needed more. So I helped her do her last show, and I helped her teach. A lot of people here online on this talk knew that I took her out to California several times. Nancy was so wonderful to have her at Mendocino. That's where Bet took her class. We had, she had that beautiful show at the Mendocino Art Center. And I drove all that work out there. It's insane. But yeah, it was great. And had I not, she started failing already in 2010 and 11. We knew what the diagnosis was. No one in the circle let anybody know. I knew I had a few years, 4 or 5 years, I could keep her on the road teaching, which I did through 2016. That was, I think, the last year she taught. And then 2017 and 18, we did the last 2 years of shows. And when COVID hit, her dementia was not that bad in 2019, but COVID really desocialized her. And that she lost a tremendous amount of ground. And she went into memory care in 2022. And next week will be the 1st year anniversary since she passed, which I can't believe it's been a year. Right after she passed, I started the saw frame. And it is based on her saw frame. This is based on my saw frame. And I had done this one several years ago, 2022, I think, as just a sample. This was the first piece where I actually sewed metal into the construction, because I was trying to figure out how to add metalsmithing to this work in my own way. And so I had done this one, and then when she passed away, I had shown this one to her. And she had said that day I took it down there, I think it was 2021, She said, that's my saw frame. I said, no, Betty, this one's my saw frame. And I took hers down. It's also a French antique saw frame. And I took the picture of it. And that's her saw frame. And it's very similar to mine, but it's slightly different. So I decided to go ahead and make that when she passed away, because I had already been in discussion. There's a member who asked to remain anonymous. They were very close to Betty. They went to a lot of snag conferences back in the day. They haven't been in many years because they're not well. They're older. And they wanted me to, we had talked about this saw frame while she was in memory care. And then they asked me if I would be willing to make one the day she died, because I had texted her and said she just passed away. And she contacted me back. She said, we got to do that project. She wanted me to make something that we could donate to Snag, to make just any kind of any donation is great. You know, I have no preconceptions about what we're going to make off of it. But Betty loves Snag, and Betty never missed a Snag conference. And I will tell you, I don't know if anyone here remembers John Satterfield, who was the professor at ECU. But he was, before his life as a metalsmith, he was an engineer with the Peace Corps for 8 years. And he built bridges down in South America and designed like suspension bridges and stuff. So all of the work and the man I studied under was mechanical. He had this egg that he had raised both parts. It had this beautiful surface to it. It was about this big. And when you open the lid, 2 bronze cast legs, naked legs from the hip up, it came out, and one kicked up. And he said, those are Betty Helen's legs. Apparently, Snag used to have a big dance every year. I know that y'all still do it. But back in the day, it was a big dance. And Betty was the last human being off the dance floor. Always, at every conference. Like, it was a thing. You couldn't get her off the dance floor. And she did ballroom dancing when I worked for her. So, you know, that's how much she was tied into the Snag conference. And it really meant a lot to her. She never missed them. She loved all the lectures. She loved participating. I don't think she ever served on the board. You know, she was a working metalsmith too. She did about 20 shows a year, no lie, until the recession. She stayed on the road and taught or did shows. She did consistently Philadelphia Art Museum, Smithsonian, ACC Baltimore, ACC Chicago, ACC San Francisco. Those are like the big ones. I remember Cherry Creek. She did that. And she always got in. You know, these are shows I could never get in. I tried for a long time. And Betty would just send her a little thing. But you know how she got in the Smithsonian show every year? She sent the women's committee a thank you note, handwritten every year. Thank you so much for choosing me and having me and had a great time. And she did that show like 5 years in a row. Unheard of. People don't get asked back like, you know, consecutively. And that just speaks to Betty. That's another reason why I wanted this offering to be gold, because she was such a golden person. And I don't know, that's kind of the story behind it. And then the technique is something else I can, if anybody has questions. I don't want to go into the gold work unless you're interested in how I transitioned into this.
And we have some images we can share too of your other work.
Yeah, I can do that too. I figured I've got it all on my iPad.
Oh,
and I had a video of my 2 studios. I don't know if anyone wants to see the video, a short video. Can we play that? Will that work?
Mm-hmm. That should work.
If you've got that, that would be great.
Hey, Andrea,
Yeah.
before you show that, could I mention just one thing that I remember so well about Betty? I met her in 2015 when I took the class up in Mendocino, and I was just, I mean, I was a, you know, kind of a baby metalsmith at that point, and I was just in awe of her. But one of the things about Betty, she had a wicked sense of humor. And I will never forget, it was a shell forming class, and she did this beautiful demo form of these two kind of symmetrical curves. And she held it up, and somebody said, "Oh, that looks like a pair of lips." And she said, "Oh, yeah." And she put it on her mouth.
I have a
And
picture of that.
I have a picture of that too. And I treasure it. And she was a goofball. I mean, she had a great sense of humor. Yeah.
She was a naughty person. And I will just tell you that the first time she met my husband, and those of you who know Chuck, he is extremely shy. He is super balled up IT geek introvert. And we had just joined Piedmont Craftsman. He's also an artist. We did our first show together. This was like 96. And the first night of the craft fair, Betty invited, I was already working for her, invited all of us to join all the artists, went to this Thai restaurant down in this part of downtown Winston on Stratford Road. And Chuck said, sure. He was nervous because there were like 12 people he didn't know. And he was kind of like, oh, God, he's been in a booth all day with people he didn't know. He was already saturated. He sat right next to Betty, and I sat next to him, and she ordered mussels, and she popped a mussel open and pulled it out and did a very naughty thing. And my husband crawled under the table, glowing red. She embarrassed him. Everybody else was laughing. She's like, look at my mussel. And he was gone. He was just like, "Ugh." And at the end of dinner, he said, we're leaving now, right? And that was his first meeting with my boss. She did have a wicked sense of humor. And she was just a lot of fun to be with. She was a lot of fun to travel with. And the community has really lost an icon. I can't, not just because of her personality and all, but all of you all that saw her hammering, and she was left-handed. And that brings it back to me. For years, we both taught our own workshops. I would help her book workshops, but she would go do her thing, and I would get my little workshops and do my thing. And one day we were both at Aramont, and she realized I was assisting her. A lot of her students struggled because she hammered with her left hand, and you're right-handed. So think about anti-clasting when you've got to translate that in an opposite direction. And that's when she said, oh my God, you've got to teach with me. Because I was able to go right behind her and demo the same piece right-handed. And students were like, oh God, remember that? She was left-handed. And it was. For some students, it's really hard to translate anti-clasting from a left-handed person to a right-handed person. So that started in 2008, oh yeah, you're mine. And I started teaching with her. And then we started merging because I taught tiny shell forming, which she did not do or like. She did big stuff. And that's how that translated into our working together on the teaching level. And they just, from there on. And by the end, I was spending 2 nights a week the last 4 years down at the lake house. I'm 90 minutes from where she lived. So I would just go down in the morning, work 12 hours on her stuff, spend the night, work another 6 or 8 hours, and then drive home. And I did that every week for 4 years, the last 4 years of her life. I kept her working, and I also kept all that from the community, as some of you can attest. Y'all didn't know she was having issues. So, that was my job. My job was to keep her out there as long as I made her a promise because we talked about it. She's like, I don't want to quit, but I don't know what to do with this diagnosis. And I said, I'll keep you out there. And I trust me. She did. I was the one that said, now we're done. And she, that's how it all evolved. And I spent the last 4 years, I was on the road, pulling her along with me. So we had some good times out west. It was fun. But anyway, so were we going to do the video or?
the videos didn't come through
Oh,
to us.
okay.
Do
Let
you
me
want
see
to
if I
try to
can.
share them?
So where is the share? Let's see. Here we go. Start share. Only the host can share in this meeting.
No, let me try. Did you request?
Oh, shoot.
I don't, I didn't set up the meeting, so let me see if I can change.
All right, let's see. Start share. Nope, I can't
Oh,
share.
wait. Host tools for sharing, share settings.
Yeah, I think you have to give me permission.
Yeah.
If you make Andrea co-host, she can share.
Okay. Yeah, I've not had that.
And I did bring some things out. Like some of y'all haven't seen the parallel action pliers I did.
Okay, now, yeah, see if you can share now. I made you a
Okay,
co-host.
now we'll try it. Yes, photos. Here we go. All right, so you want to see some of Betty's work. Is that what we're doing first? Let's do that first. We can do most of show selected. Can y'all see that? No. Here we go.
No, I'm gonna remove the spotlight. Let's see if that helps.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. This is one of my personal pieces, one of her tree wall pieces. It's in this show at Sawtooth where my other piece, my ravens, are. It's a exhibition of 80 years of teachers at Sawtooth. So I loaned my piece of Betty's. This is her Zen Garden series, one of her pieces, which was the sculpture the last 10 years of her life. I made all her jewelry. She focused on sculptural pieces. This is some of her jewelry. This is from the 90s. This is one of my favorite pieces from 1996. That boulder opal and that piece of niobium, y'all, is just something else, isn't it? It's just a stunning. But you see, her work is very simply formed. It's just elegant and it's not a lot of overhammering. The pieces of gold that you see formed here, she did with a die press and they're step dyed. So you have a cut open form, you die press it, you remove it from the die press, put it back and move that plastic piece over, a little bit. And when you re-die press it, you get those lines. Does that make sense? It's probably, and then this is one of her vessels for tears. And I think that work was probably her most famous work. That's the work that was shown that several museums have collected over the years and got her in a lot of high-end shows. And then these are not great pictures, but this is some of her latter production work. This is what I did. And it's just great to see, how, and then this is the one piece I have of hers. It's a major. That was her largest Zen Garden piece. It was the very first one she did, and it's like 19 inches from point to point. So it's really pretty big. And it was the first one she did. We both grew up sailing, and I said, I have to have it. So I gave her a ginormous amount of money, and then I worked for 4 years. I worked off the other half of it because that's so Betty. And anyway, that is the piece that I'm donating to the North Carolina Museum of Art. I was going to give it to the Metals Museum in Memphis. We had a long discussion about it, and they said they recommended, they said they would take it, but they were like, have you tried your state institution? And I'm so glad that the director talked to me, because I didn't think about keeping it here. And it should be here, right? This piece should be at the North Carolina Museum of Art because she was here. So that is going probably this fall. And that's what I have of her work. There you go. Stop share. And then I can share some of my work if you would like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder if those videos of the studio, See, it doesn't show me videos, it just shows me pictures. So the Zoom won't let you load a video. Okay.
It should let you. Yeah, if you go to share,
I'll show you the
if
history
you
is
have the
coming.
video open, you should be able to select the screen to share.
Let's see, it's not
Mhm.
showing up. I don't see the video. Yeah, it's not showing up. All right, let me just load these. So I was going to show you my very beginnings. Let me I'll back through these. All right, well, these are so this is it during COVID. Before COVID, I started embroidering again. And then in 2020, a lot happened, as y'all know. And I did this series called History is Watching. And they're all these eyes. They're etched and they're shell formed. This pair is left looking at the right, looking at the left, looking at the right, just never ending. And that piece, and I did a series of these, those two pieces ended up in this box because y'all remember so much was happening. And I started embroidering the fire in neutral tones in grayscale because everything was just on fire. Australia was burning, California was burning. On the box that Chuck built for me, you see all the dates and I made notation of all the stuff that was happening. But this was the first moment since 1992 that I had started integrating metal and embroidery. I had done it much earlier. Here's a great shot. And y'all, this piece sold like right away. I put it in a gallery during COVID and it was like gone. And they're both broke. These are the pieces I did in graduate school. My God, they're embarrassing as hell. But here they are. So I had been embroidering since I was 13. And I was trying to figure out a way in graduate school in 92 how to unify. This is not unified. This is just embroidery and metal sewn together in my book. But I did all these little castings, and these are real tiny. The thing is my thesis that I was working on was about family portraits in metal, and they were done in a military metal format. So I was already working in that medallion metal format, which is why these kind of happened in that format. And I just kind of stashed that whole experience behind me for years and went into metalsmithing, which is here's some of my metals work. Most people have seen these pieces. They're from 2006. I had Chuck and I had an exhibition at a gallery in Winston-Salem. We were members of Piedmont Craftsmen, and we were the featured artist in November of 2006. And I did 57 different versions. That's not one. Here's one of these water pieces with using the shell. And I retained like 5 of them were not for sale, but I sold almost all of them the opening night, which was the biggest show Piedmont Craftsman had ever had. This is postgraduate thesis work. Right after I came out of grad school in 95 and I was working with Betty, I started doing these portrait pieces, carrying over what I had done in my thesis. And a lot of people really liked these. I did a whole lot of them. But y'all, I didn't go into this realizing that I would do nothing but dead people. I thought I would be doing like, your girlfriend or your mother, a child. And after 5 years of doing these, what I did is people would send me photos and then they would write up all the things about this human being. And I would make the piece over 4 or 5 months and I would get to know this person and then I would grieve this person. And it was like losing somebody myself. And after 5 years of that, I couldn't do it anymore. I just hit like a wall. But I think I was just emotionally tapped out. So I started doing work like this. I went and learned chasing and repoussé from Valentin Yatkov in 2002. Chuck and I went to New York and spent like 2 weeks with him when he was teaching. And that's my first chasing line piece. And lots of small forming details on these, but just to show you that my work, I worked very differently from Betty. These are all shell form, this neck piece. She hated tiny little parts. And as you see with her work, it was lots of unified forms. And I am making stories. My work is very narrative. It's all narrative, relatable imagery, lots of nature. So this is a salt and pepper cellar that Chuck and I did together. I did the metal pieces, the leaf and lady slipper form. He carved the dragonfly out of gold lip mother pearl and cow bone. It has emerald eyes. That's the salt spoon. The pepper spoon is buffalo horn, not water buffalo horn, and 18 karat gold inlay and opal eyes. And then it has like rose quartz and a biwa pearl and moonstone on it. So we started doing a lot of work together in that period while he was still working IT. And I was working for Betty. And you can see the forming influence in my work right away that she had. But I think we were such a good partnership because our work couldn't be any different, right, from each other. And so, sometimes when you have an apprentice, they learn from you. And of course, eventually they get out of the emulation and develop their own voice. But for a while, there's that emulation, which has never bothered me, but it does bother a lot of people. And it bothered Betty a lot. She would get really upset if people copied her work. But anyway, and then, here's another one of her pieces. This is what her willow series. And she did like these branches. Oh, think of that tree piece that's in the show that's bronze forged wire, the same. And this really, really lovely. This is one of my favorite pieces of hers. I wear this one a lot. And then this is a piece of hers that is really way back. That's die pressed. But I just thought it was to show that she was diverse in some of her work. So, any questions?
Andrea, I've got a question. Where do you see your work going with the textile work and the metal? I mean, what?
Right. I brought my little bat for y'all to see, my latest piece. I'm very happy with him. I can show you, I'll share some photos, but I wanted you to see the actual piece because you can see the depth. People don't realize pictures do not show the depth of this embroidery and how, dimensional it is. But like I have little fine silver teeth, and he's got bronze talons and a ruby eye. I am there metal and gold work, and I'll talk about the style of embroidery I'm doing. Metal work has been put with gold work for centuries. They will, if you see ecumenical or crowns that are embroidered, and they'll have like a metal setting with the ruby in it put on it, but they're always just attached to the surface. And what I'm doing is sewing things into the building process. So I'm starting before even thread gets on it. I have to really think about it and plan ahead, do lots of mock-ups if I'm going to insert metal into these pieces, because you won't know it worked till you cut it off the frame 500 or 800 hours later.
So is it like you've built a metal armature that you?
Okay, so each little talon is individual. And I tapered these out, and then the back of them is a forged taper flat, like a spear that I can insert into the material. And then it gets sewn into after it's inserted, I have a little anvil up here and a tiny hammer. And it's still on the frame. So you have to understand, it's still on this big frame I'll show you. So I have to flip the frame over and get the little anvil under the wire, and I'll hammer it and spread that out so it's not round anymore. Then I can lay that flat and sew it in. My mentor that I started studying in 2019 in Russia, and life was so great for me and Marina until a war got started in 2022. Now it's very, very hard for me to communicate with her. But when I did this piece in 2021, I said, Marina, she'd help me teach me with flowers and a couple of classes. I'll show you some of my class projects. And I said, I want to do this soft frame. And I sent her a picture, and she was like, oh, I know nothing of jewelry tools. Like, she said, I can't help you with that. You're going to have to figure that building process out of that on your own. Because I wanted to add the steel wire with these tiny cut C beads for the blade. And she was like, oh, I don't know. And I said, it's okay, I'll figure it out. Up to this point, and those of you who have been following me since 2019 and 2020 knew that what I was doing was making embroidered pieces and then making nice bases for them. And this was the turning point where I started in 2021 thinking, I really want to integrate the metal, not just have it sit on the metal. And now the neck collar is going to have it's going to have actual hinges with gemstones set on them in the back portion inserted, and some bugs that I'm doing in metal with abalone and mother of pearl wings that are going to be sewn in. And I thought the neck collar was going to take me, I started it 3 months ago. I just finished building it, 412 hours just to build it. I just started thread 2 days ago. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be more than 1,200 hours. But this gives you a really good idea of how it's built. Isn't that wild? So this is the back of the neck collar. It has to be in separate pieces. And the hinges will get sewn in on either side, and then the correct sides of these. And they're going to look something like this. The dotted lines are the spears. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm in a place now where all my, and I have, because Marina was so unifying, the classes I took for years was with 20 or 30 other women from all over the world. And so now I have this really tight community of women on WhatsApp that we talk daily. Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Argentina, Germany, France. It's been really helpful for me to get materials. None of this stuff is made here. It all comes from Europe or India, Turkey, Pakistan. So the last couple of years, as y'all know, it's been really difficult to get materials. So thank God I have that community. That community has kept me going, and Marina too, because Marina is in a country that she's now cut off from the world because of this war. So it's been kind of a mess. But anyway, I'm just going to keep plugging away. Every piece, I learn something new. I just hate that it takes me so long to learn it and to get it done. But I do love gold work. And had I known about gold work when I was 30 and already a metalsmith doing a corporate job part-time and doing metal work at night in my studio, I would have never done an MFA. I would have gone to England and I would have been all about this. because I originally started in textiles. And well, I started in painting and printmaking. And my painting degree is in color field and color theory, which is why my color blending is so good. I think that my color sense is really good on several other embroiderers, professional embroiderers that are friends of mine now
Can
in
you
the
show us
UK.
close-ups of some of your pieces so we can see the colors?
Sure. Let me
I
see if I
know
can
fabulous.
share. I got pictures. And I hate that my ravens are still in the show because they're like the best. Um, I'll show you my hair comb. I've got some roses. Let's try this. Okay, here's the bat. Can y'all see that better?
Yeah.
And you can see like the wings I've blended from dark to light on the thread. The shading, that's not the light, that's actually shaded. And then of course my bizarre sense, these are seed pearls, tiny little. I have to buy number 15 sewing needles to go through those. They're the smallest needles and the eye is so tiny, y'all, that I use Nymo, which is Kevlar thread. I have to split it down and wax the heck out of it just to get it through the little eye hole. You can't use a threader. I mean, the eye hole is like a nanite. So, and then the
Uh,
metal wire is called PURL, pearl.
have you ever used, so I work with like 15-aught size beads in my work, and I've found that the best needles, they're like a split beading needle. It's split the whole length instead of a little eye at the end.
Yes, but I can't run that through fabric.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's not right.
And I
It's not
can't
quite
run it
strong
through a
enough.
half-inch thick piece of
Yeah.
construction.
Oh.
And my tiny seed beads I'm using are those pearls are like size 18. The ones I've got for the neck piece are going to be like 18, 20, antique. I'm buying all antique seed beads. That's the carved Tahitian pearl and labradorite. See the claws? You can see them really well now. They are put in independently. Each claw is a piece, each toe. And then I do love his little fine silver teeth, y'all. And his nose is made out of copper. So this is the eastern brown bat. He eats bugs. The bat I'm doing on the neck collar is a nectar bat. So he eats flowers at night, which is why all the flowers on the piece are morning glories, moonflower, jasmine, honeysuckle, all night bloomers. Okay, so that's that. And I have some more of the ravens. These pieces are at the exhibition in Sawtooth. I think I picked my piece up next week. So these are the two ravens. And the white one I started at the same time as the saw frame. I started the white one the morning Betty died. The saw frame I started a few days after on a separate frame. But I have to tell you all, the morning she passed, I got up that morning at 4:45. I couldn't sleep. I went to pee. You know how we do. Get up, go to the bathroom. And I went down the hallway. My studio is in the front of my 100-year-old house. And I went in the metal studio and cut the light on. I never do this, y'all. It was like 5:01. And I felt this just energy fly through me. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like that white raven. It was electric. And I felt really weird. And I woke Chuck up. I went back down the hallway and cut everything off and went in the bedroom. And he was like, "What's up?" And I said, "I don't know. I just feel so weird." And I couldn't go back to sleep. And at 6:30, Tommy called me. And he said, "Betty passed at 5:01."
Mm.
And she went right through me, y'all. And I just immediately came upstairs and put a new foundation on a frame and just drew that on the piece with a number 8B pencil directly, which I never do, and started working on that white raven. The black raven I had just finished, and it was Raven Steals the Sun, which is a Haida indigenous story about how raven brought light to the world. But there are white ravens on Vancouver Island, and they're not albino, they're luristic, which means it's a pigment fault genetically, and they have blue eyes. So this one has a blue sapphire eye. And Betty loved the moon, y'all. Everything for her. She bought, if a wine had a moon on it, it could taste like gasoline, she was going to buy it. And this will show you that the foot on this one is argentium wire that I wrapped in thread. And then the moon is fine silver, because I didn't want stuff that would tarnish on this, right? Y'all, I have to work with all materials that won't need to be cleaned, like gold or fine silver. And that's the back. I am very particular about how I build my findings. I'm using stainless steel wire pin stems, and I put moonstones. And then I'll just show you some close-ups of this guy. That's a citrine with 18 karat gold. And this foot is bronze, which is thread wrapped. And look at how thick these things are. It's just crazy. So this piece, these two pieces, I forged a 6-inch piece of brass rod. Let's see if I can find a picture of that. Here it is, onto a base. That is the base for them. And that's what's down at the show. When they asked me to put this piece in the exhibition, then I had to figure out how to display them. So I did. So all that limb, which is 28 inches high, came out of 6 inches of brass that was a 1/4 inch in diameter. I hammered for 2 weeks drawing that out. So I'm pretty proud of that. And let's see, I will show you I have this piece with me, my golden cockerel. So this is one of the pieces in Marina's repertoire. This is a class. This is not my design. This is her design. So this is one of my class pieces, which is why I never show it. However, I did make it mine. I did what none of the other students could do, which was I made a sterling base for it. That's a Spanish style hair comb. And it has, and of course, I changed the classes because they don't have metalsmithing skills. I set a ruby eye and gold on that, and a chrome diopside tourmaline. It just makes my teacher insane that I put all these stones and stuff on them. And that's the back of the piece. So, and if you want to see it, here it is. And it's very lightweight. And this took 500 hours, and this took 6. What can I say? Metalsmithing's a lot faster.
It's a beautiful piece.
Thank you. I'm sorry, y'all, my allergies are killing me. And also, I am experimenting with stuff like this. This is called stump work. And stump work is a free form, it's freed off the frame after you sew it, but front and back you know how people sew embroidery, the back looks like a mess. This has to be done like Chinese embroidery. So the back has to be done as equally good as the front. So if any of you guys would like to spread the word for us about the raffle, I would really appreciate it because we need to get more word out. And I don't know if Brianne wants to extend it. Um, I can't hear
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
we might extend it. We're not sure yet. But also know you can, so one raffle ticket is $20, but if you get $100, five raffle tickets, you actually get six tickets. So you get an
Yeah.
extra ticket. And
Yeah.
that
My
will help
friend
your
Maggie said,
chances. And you're making a donation to Snag. So you're supporting a good organization. Hope you consider
that
that.
Betty loved. I mean, y'all, she would go to Snag dying. I mean, it was just like when she couldn't go in 2018, it was crushing to her because I couldn't afford to do it at the time. And plus, Chuck and I had the hammer. Everybody remember I got that hammer company. And so I do have like another job in life. And I just couldn't go with her. And she was just crushed. But yeah, it would really, I know it would do her spirit a lot too if people really helped us raise some money because she just loved the organization and she wanted students to have access. And y'all remember Nancy and Bet. It was so important to Betty. She tried to make all her tools cheap. Y'all remember what links she went to make sure students had things. And she gave people stuff if they were just indigent practically at Sawtooth when she taught there weekly. And she just really loved the media and the community. She wanted this to continue. She was very fearful that metalsmithing would disappear one day with technology. I tried to assure her that that wasn't going to happen. And I think it's really going to be like the arts and crafts movement. I think there's going to be a mass rejection of all the crap we've all had to take with the tech bro. I think that they're getting ready to get a real pushback from the handmade community.
I
And
hope
good
so.
for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for
But
sure.
please, I know y'all all have followings. So please get the word out because I would um, just like to do something for Snag because I really love the organization myself. I used to belong, and I'm in a place now where I don't even show anywhere. I don't make enough work. I'm so overworked with the hammer company. I want to figure out how to get to Costa Rica and run away. And so I'm just like, I'm not an organization person right now, but it doesn't mean I don't support Snag at all. I greatly support the organization. It's a very important organization. It meant a lot to me when I was younger and upcoming in this media and beginning my career. It's really important, not just for students, but that bridge, the first 5 years out of grad or undergrad school, really Snag is the lifeline.
Mm.
I learned so much from other people that did shows at the time. When I was a member in the 90s, a lot of us, their students went, but everybody had the goal of that craft fair circuit. And people weren't wanting to teach. They wanted to go out and make work. And it was great. I had a lot of people that taught me a lot of stuff that saved me. So yeah, the organization's super important.
I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for a snag conference.
I know, that's right. Where we met Houston.
A long time ago.
2010. I will never forget Houston. All the refugees from Katrina were still living in the bushes at the museum. Remember that?
Yeah,
The things we remember, Brienne, of a snag conference, right?
For sure, for
Uh,
sure.
I will never forget that. It's like, ooh, there's a human in that shrub. But yeah, and I miss teaching. And I didn't even go into why I'm not giving up metalsmithing, but I spent 20 years before the hammer company making work for Betty and myself on the road. I mean, selling. And then I spent 8, 9 years on the road hammering, and my back's gone. I had surgery 3 years ago, and my surgeon's just like, you're done. Find a new hobby. So I can teach on wood floors like my little private space, but I can't do. Um, and that's what got me back into embroidery because I thought is something that I can do all day, and I could teach this because it's sitting. But anyway, thank you, Brienne and
Yeah,
Chelsea,
thank you,
too,
Andrea. Thank you,
for
Chelsea.
this time. Hey, Nancy, I'm coming to Mendocino. I swear to God, I'm going to get out west again one more time.
Well, you better come through here on your
Oh,
way.
I'm coming to see you in just a few months. We're coming to see you, and then we're going to Alabama to see my niece. I'll text you about that soon. We're plotting.
Okay.
But yeah, so y'all try to help us, please.
Yes,
Get the word
please spread
out.
the word. If you need any promotional things, let us know. And I put a link to the raffle in the chat. And thank you all for joining us. And thank you,
Yeah,
Andrea.
send you
We
stuff to
will post this
post.
recording as well. So,
This is great. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you,
Thank
Brianne. I
you.
hope I didn't.
Thank
Yes.
you.
all right,
Yeah.
everyone. Well,
All
take
right, you
care.
guys,
Have a
take
great
care.
night.
You too. You
Bye.
too. Thanks so much. Bye bye.